Hello there, and welcome to the Dear Dyslexic podcast series, brought to you by Rethink Dyslexia, the podcast where we're breaking barriers and doing things differently. I'm Shae Wissell, your host, and I'm so glad you can join us. I'm a fellow neurodivergent, and I'm coming from the lands of the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation, where I live and work. And I would like to acknowledge and pay my respects to all the tribes across our beautiful country, and to all First Nations people listening today. Our podcast was born in 2017 out of a need to give a voice to the stories and perspectives of adults with dyslexia. And our voice has grown stronger year after year. We're now a globally listened to podcast with guests from all around the world. Join us for insightful conversations about living with dyslexia and other neurodivergences across all walks of life. Our special focus is on adult education, employment, social and emotional wellbeing, and entrepreneurship. We're excited to be bringing you this episode and invite you to like and follow us, or even better, why not leave us a review on your favourite podcast platform. So let's get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dear Dyslexic podcast show. And today I have our special guest with us, Neil Alexander Passe, who I am a huge fan of, with all the research that he has undertaken in looking at dyslexia and more broadly now neurodivergence. And this is the second time I've had Neil on the show, and we were just talking about when that last was, and I think it was during COVID. So a lot's happened between then and now. But thank you for coming back on the show, Neil.
Sure. I mean, a lot's changed since COVID, but a lot has gone back. It's quite weird. It's because just in schools during COVID, we were giving out and obviously laptops or obviously Chromebooks to students. And so that was really great for a neurodivergent and obviously student. Autistic students loved it being on a line. Students with dyslexia could obviously type their work, and that was a really positive step. Now we are like 3 years later, there was this challenge in schools that their normal way of working was changed from writing to typing, and now a lot of the schools have been trying to force kids back to the writing for their formal exams. Students with this dyslexia are saying, well, can I carry on with the laptop? And the schools are saying no. So their so-called normal way of working and obviously has been changed back to the worst, really.
That's surprising, isn't it? Because it's such a good accommodation. Like, you would think that they would be entitled to that from an accommodation perspective.
You would say that. However, from a logistic side, it's quite hard for schools. So for formal exam, we could call them GCSEs and A levels in the UK. Say that your normal way of working is a laptop use, then the school or the college must provide you a clean machine to use during those formal exams, and that takes about a week to set up. So a school hasn't got a spare laptop around for that purpose. So it's cost them money. They are looking to move all the exams over to be on a line PC base, but that could take obviously another 5 years. But for a school, for a student requiring a laptop, they will have a room full of 30 laptops there, and obviously printer to the back of the room. So when the exam ends, the student must load their file to a USB stick. It's then taken to the computer where the printer is. They will then print to that. It then goes back to the student, who will then sign it. So there is a lot of logistics involved, and that's why schools are less willing to obviously allow students to type.
I think I would have done so much better in school exams if I had had a computer.
or something to have typed on, because my handwriting, and I think, well, with my dysgraphia as well, my handwriting's terrible. So I don't know how they understood what I was saying.
Yeah, I mean, following COVID, handwritings got worse. I've seen many kids coming in years 7 and 8 with shockingly bad writing, and the reason for that was COVID. COVID has meant that students, the younger ones, have lost crucial time in their primary school learning. There will be a knock-on for the next 30 years, sadly.
Yes, it is sad and scary, because I know, like, where we are in Melbourne, I think we had some of the strictest rules globally, and we were locked down multiple times for long periods of time. So we're just starting to see the implications of that now for young people and children.
Yeah, I mean, I visit many schools, and we still obviously talk about COVID, and my school where I was buying 1,000 Chromebooks to then send out to each student seemed a very brave move by the school. Just most schools didn't. So I mean, lock down one. There wasn't much learning that took place during lockdown 1. Lockdown 2, it seemed like that schools were more planned. They were more willing to provide online learning. But when term 2 was coming to the end, and there were still cases of COVID around, you were dealing with this strange hybrid model where you would have, say, 20 kids in school with the teacher teaching, but 5 or 10 kids online as well. So that was really hard. But no, I mean, Google Chrome or Google Meet was quite good. Teams was also quite good. So yeah, I mean, the learning side took place, but just using different systems. I think that the main challenge was how you supported students with high needs during it, is because in a class setting, there would be a TA supporting a student or next to them, or supporting 3 or 4 students. So you couldn't do that on a line. So the TAs, these teaching assistants, felt quite disempowered during that time. But yes, we've moved on now. I think lots of things have gone back. No one thought they would ever go back. Even cruise ships are full. And back then, I think cruise ships were seen as something that you would never, ever go on.
Yes, yeah. You could have easily seen them all fold, but no, they're back up and running, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, research-wise, for me, I've tended to broaden my range, the range of writing. So I've gone neurodiverse, looking at the theories I had for my dyslexia-based research. Is it the same for others with a hidden difference? So are the strategies used for someone with a hidden disability or difference of dyslexia, are they similar strategies used for someone with, say, autism, or someone with epilepsy, or someone with sight impairment? Are they using similar strategies to cope? Not the strategies to learn, it is strategies to cope, to be resilient, to pass, to get through the door. Passing is when you don't tell someone that you have a learning difference, but you go under the radar a bit to get you through the front door so that you can then shine and show your talents.
Today we're going to chat on the show about your books around the pipeline to crime for neurodivergence. But so the concept of pass, is that similar to masking, or is that
Yes, well, I think that passing and masking quite similar. As someone who is autistic would mask or mimic, I think that it is quite similar. I think passing is not raising it. So you go into a meeting and you don't highlight your learning difference. So you're passing. There is like a free pass, and that allows you to. Yeah, please.
So it's a form of non-disclosure.
Yes.
So you've got the opportunity, but you're choosing not to, and that stems from like the work you've done and some of the research I've done around the stigma and the shame. And is that why people are passing? Is that what you're finding at the moment? I love this concept, Neil. I wish I'd spoken to you before I just wrote my fourth paper on labels. And
I mean, the theory is the viability label theory, and it is I think the medical model of disability or being fixed, it works for certain areas of need. I think that the social model is more about autism and physical needs. However, there's nothing that really works with the hidden disability range. So a person with a hidden difference, they look normal? They're able to walk through a door and no one would know that they are disabled or obviously have a learning and obviously difference. So therefore, there is a choice there. They've got a choice whether they will disclose or not. And so the passing is choosing not to, and there are several benefits to that.
So would we use that term rather than masking, do you think? Because we see masking in the autistic community all the time, and dyslexics do mask, but I guess I use it as a masking / it's more coping strategies. So maybe passing is a better term to describe what we do? Or do you think they're all different?
I think that masking is to mimic.
Right.
And so you mimic something so that you look normal or you act in a normal way. I think that I would say that masking is different. So a person who is autistic might mask, and so they mimic how their peers act. Someone who's passing isn't mimicking, but they're not highlighting their learning and obviously difference. Okay, so there is a difference there. And also the viability model says that there is a missing box, the third box. In that question, applying for a job, are you disabled? Yes or no? Okay, so someone who is dyslexic might see themselves as non-disabled. So therefore they would say no. However, for protection of the act, any legislation, they would need to say yes, but they don't believe that they are disabled. So for a previous book, I was talking to someone who's a CEO of, he's got ADHD, he's based in the US. And so I posed for the research, do you see yourself as disabled? And he said, it varies. How does it vary? Well, he said that he sent a written report to a review, then that is disabling him because he struggles to read it. So therefore, it's a hard thing to do. But if he's sent it in a digital format and he's able to use software, he doesn't feel disabled. So it's really hard for someone with a hidden NMC difference or NMC disability to fill in that form, to respond to that NMC question. So I asked people with type 1 diabetes, with epilepsy, with mental health and difficulties, ADHD, autism, dyslexia, a similar NMC set of NMC questions. And all of them were using passing within their lives to cope, and that allowed them to be successful. Someone asked, well, is it lying? Are they lying? Well, and obviously respond to a question and to say the wrong thing. Okay. okay, are you a blonde? I would ask you, are you blonde? Now, you might say yes, but I would see it as no, okay? Because you might say no, even though that your core hair color could be blonde. It's because you don't want to be judged as someone who is blonde, okay? So therefore, are you saying yes or no? You might turn around and say, well, Neil, do I look blonde? And I would go, oh, no, you're not. So therefore, have you lied? No. Have you passed? Yes. Yeah. So it's not lying, but it's not telling. You're not lying because you're not misleading, but there is no need to disclose something that doesn't need to be disclosed, as that might have a negative viewpoint from others.
I love it. And I like how it separates the masking, because I've been saying, well, dyslexics mask, we're hiding all the time that we can't do something. But I think using the term of passing instead, because we do pass up the opportunity to disclose because of all the attachments of negativity associated with it.
Yeah, I mean, passing, it's not lying, but it's not telling the whole truth. So I wouldn't even call it a white lie. I wouldn't even use the term lying, is because you're not lying. You're not saying something that's not truthful. However, you're not disclosing something that might be useful to them, but they may use it against you.
So it would be lying if someone directly said to you, your spelling is terrible, are you dyslexic? And that person said no.
Your spelling is terrible. Are you dyslexic? Well,
and you were,
but are you diagnosed?
Yeah. So if you're diagnosed and you know you're dyslexic and someone directly asked you the question, then it could be lying. But yes, if you weren't diagnosed,
yes.
And we know there's a large proportion of people who have dyslexic traits that have the opportunity to be diagnosed.
Yes. So therefore, you wouldn't be lying by saying that you're not dyslexic. It's because you're not diagnosed. And in real terms, as someone who will obviously assess for it, you can't say that someone is. You will say that you have many traits of it. It isn't a blood test. You can't diagnose someone to say you have dyslexia. Yeah. It is a fine line, but it allows many people with a hidden disability to do well in life, because it allows you to succeed. It allows others to fill in the holes for you. And that might work for you.
And it does for many dyslexics, where that's the strategy of passing. That's our strategy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Until something really bad happens and we have to say, I need help because of difficulty or difference. So you're sticking to language, which is not what we were going to talk about tonight. So I might have to have you on a third turn to talk about your books.
Yeah.
At Rethink Dyslexia, we are doing things differently. As a global leader in creating inclusive environments for adults with dyslexia, our commitment is to provide individuals with opportunities to live healthier, happier, and more connected lives. Through our range of tailored services, including coaching, learning and development programs, consultancy, and training, we're helping dyslexic individuals, businesses, and organisations to better understand and support their dyslexic employees. So if you're looking for insights, inspiration, and expert advice on dyslexia and how you can provide inclusive practices and environments, then head to rethinkdyslexia.com to find out more, or book your free consultation today.
What do you think of the term neurodivergence being so all-encompassing of so many conditions now? I don't know what it's like in the UK, but in Australia now, neurodivergence, you could have an intellectual disability, you could have Down syndrome, you could have post-traumatic stress syndrome, you could have a mental health condition, you could have a neurodevelopmental condition. Like, the umbrella is so big and so colourful. Do you feel that it dilutes and it's not an accurate representation of the differences under that umbrella?
Right. Well, I've just written about this for the new book I'm researching on autism and crime. The neurodiversity movement is funded and spearheaded by the autistic charities. It is a way of, I think, softening the image to a person who is autistic. It's funded like that in the UK, could be different elsewhere. So they are the main funders to this. I think it's a very broad. Neurodiverse it covers too many things. It is a umbrella. It is a catch-all. It is a fruit salad. It is a lot of things in there. And to try to plan for a learner with neurodiverse needs is quite hard. I think it's quite hard for a teacher to make sense of it. Say you say that someone is autistic, then there is a greater sense of the strategies that you would use for them, or dyslexic, or someone with ADHD. As soon as you bring in the fruit salad to them and say, well, this person is dyslexic, but they have a few autistic traits of so-and-so, and they've got OCD as well. And there's a small bit of Williams there as well. They go, oh my God, I can't cope with this. How on earth should I plan for this child? Okay. And that's hard. I think it's a term that it's helpful in some ways, is because it gives you a sense of being a group. Okay, it gives you, so if parents love the term dyslexia, but they don't like specific learning and obviously difficulties. There's no identity to it. Okay, I was speaking to a professor for this book, and I was talking about people with autism. He said, Neil, you're wrong. You can't say that. It's autistic people, because they see that their autism is a huge part of their identity. Compared to someone who is dyslexic, they don't want to be called dyslexic person, because they see it's just one part of them. So the language is crucial here. I think it's a nice term and it has positive vibes to it, but I don't think it helps learners. I think it's good for the person with a neurodiverse needs, because they know that they are not alone, that there are others with similar or different challenges, and they're part of a large collective body. But I don't believe for learning and for teaching, it is endlessly helpful. It's not specific enough.
Do you identify as being neurodivergent? Can I ask you that?
Yeah, no, you can. I see myself as someone.
Should have prefaced that first.
No. I mean, do I see myself as neurodivergent? Yeah. To me, it is yeah. It doesn't really help you, because it doesn't quite tell you how you should support me. But yeah, I'm happy being neurodivergent. To me, personally, it's a non-term. It's a non-term because it's not endlessly helpful. It's not helpful. It gives me a sense of, yeah, I'm not neurotypical. So yes, I'm neurodiverse. And that might be seen as a cool term these days, but really it's not endlessly helpful.
Well, I feel like when you read my next paper that gets published, you won't find it as controversial as some people may do.
Yeah, I mean...
And I think, well, and it just makes me feel like, yes, I have represented the dyslexic community the way we've analysed and presented the data.
Yeah, I mean, it is like the question, do you see, as someone with dyslexia, do you see yourself as disabled? And that, I think, is a biggie. It's a huge question to ask. And it's not an easy one to answer, because you would first say, well, no, of course I'm not disabled. However, there are a few people with dyslexia severely that can't get a job because of it. And they would say, yes, I am. I mean, so to my research for the one book, this same book, and they said, well, I don't class myself as disabled because I don't claim disability benefits. And someone with a similar difficulty or health need that claims a benefit for it says, yes, they are disabled because they claim that benefit. So there is another layer to it. Who is it that's making the choice of whether you are disabled or not? Is it the government through your benefits? Is it you by claiming it? Or is it by another factor? Or is it by a medical professional? It's because a lot with the medical model, you need a medical professional to make the diagnosis. Therefore, you've got someone else that's making a view on you based on one or two meetings.
I feel like we could have a whole panel discussion with some others around this topic, couldn't we?
Yeah, I mean,
it's so complex.
It has written again, Professor Elliott in the UK from the Dyslexia debate book he wrote about 5 or 10 years ago of whether dyslexia is a real condition. And it's been making the news once and more. But I mean, again, he's making a decision based on looking at one small part of it. So the Professor Elliott is saying, well, I wouldn't treat their reading difficulties any different from another group with reading and obviously difficulties. Therefore, he's only seeing that one small bit. And therefore, as a professional, as a professor, which is a job title, it isn't an obviously qualification. But in his job title as a professor, he's saying they are not different. As a professional or someone that has dyslexia, I would turn around to Professor Elliott and say, okay, fine. So that is about the reading. How about the short-term memory difficulties, the balance difficulties, the coordination difficulties, handwriting,
right.
the comprehension difficulties? You have not seen that. So you made a very biased and obviously judgment. So again, can we trust professionals to make that decision for us?
Yeah, it's really hard, isn't it? Because to get any help, you have to have the medical professional give you the label, which was the whole paper that I'm having, hopefully will be published soon, is around the whole, like the medical profession put a label on us, which then carried through to school. And then you've got the social model that says, well, you're disabled by your environment, but we don't feel disabled. Then we've got the neurodivergent movement that says we're all different, let's celebrate us, but it's a fruit salad, like you said. So then our differences and difficulties can get lost. So there's all these different terms. And the other point that I put in my paper was around the superpower narrative, which I was asked to tone down, because we use it from an intersectional lens. So looking at the power play of labels, and those in power are the ones that are placing the labels on us. And the superpower label and ableist label by those that are in power will see their dyslexia as an advantage because they're in a high paid position.
Okay, so the superpower, I read that book. I wasn't convinced, or the advantage book. I didn't really like it. It didn't gel for me. I feel that dyslexia could be a superpower outside of school. I think inside of school, it's a disability, sadly. I think that you are disabled by the system. I think that the system's very unfair to someone with a difficulty with reading and writing. I think if you could design a system that would be the most disabling for someone with a difficulty with reading and writing, school feels that in a huge way. It's like everything that is being judged and valued is something that you can't do or you struggle with. Everything that you can do is taken with lip service. So in a classroom setting, these teacher talks, okay, and they said, right, okay, we're going to read this section of the book. You are disabling me here, creating a barrier. Right. we're going to talk about it, okay? We're going to debate it. You went, yeah, okay, great. I really like debates. And so you're able to add to it. And that's great. And you're shining. And they say, great. Now put it down on paper. Again, you are disabling me. And then the teacher will give back the work and say, you've written nothing there. You were so great within the class debate. All I wanted you to do is take that and put it down on paper. And the thing is, they didn't mark the debate, but they marked the written piece of work. So I think that in school, it is disabling. Post-school, the world is your oyster. You will use your hobbies to create, obviously, careers. Everything. There was a saying I was working with said that within the classroom, you disappear. You're hiding. You're not really joining in. Okay? Outside of the classroom, you then grow. You are being seen. It is strange. So I think that post-school, those with dyslexia can do really well. And that was one of my books. It was to find the keys for that success. And those keys were a parent that believed in you, a parent that valued the effort over the achievement, and a parent or a school that allowed you to try different things until you found the thing that you loved and the passion was there. The keys are about helping someone to unlock their purpose in life, to find it, to find what they shine at, and then supporting them for that. And that's where the superpower comes from. Because of the passion and the high focus comes from finding something that you can do well.
I think that sometimes, so if we go back to the beginning of our conversation, which again, I'm sorry that it was nothing on what we said we were going to talk about,
That's
passing.
Fine.
But if we see passing in adulthood, then do you feel like we're not getting that it's a similar setup to the school system because we can't get the reasonable adjustments to support us? So we can't work to our strengths rather than a superpower. We can't work to our strengths because we don't have those accommodations, or we don't have the autonomy or the self-determination to be able to have the tools needed to shine, like you're saying, which is what we need to do in childhood. What you're saying is really, really important. But what happens when we get out into the world? We don't have the tools we need.
Okay, so they say is the passing is getting through the front door. And it's always the hardest thing to get through the front door. And I think that as soon as you get through the front door of the job, that you can then show your skills and your abilities. So it is passing to get through that front door.
So once you pass through, do you only see masking as mimicking from the autistic community? Or if someone is hiding their dyslexia, say like I used to send my work to my mum to proofread and edit so no one could see all my errors, and it was cohesive, because my dysgraphia significantly impacts me, then, I'm masking my you can't see my errors because I'm getting someone else to help me with them. So where does that sit?
Okay, I wouldn't call that as masking. I would call that as a coping strategy. So you have a coping strategy so that the end result being submitted to your boss is good enough. I think masking is if you used it chat GDP.
Oh, but I use that all the time.
Quiet.
It's a tool we work with all the time now, but it gives a structure. And then I go in and I do my own work. But it helps me get the initial stuff out of my brain.
Yeah. It's a fine line between what is to mask. I mean, to me, masking is to mimic how a person is socially.
Okay.
I would use mimicking as a social tool. You wouldn't really mimic with work. I think you would use a coping strategy for work. But I think that a lot of autistic people, girls more than boys, a lot more girls struggle with the social side, and they will mimic.
So I feel like, Neil, we need to get a blog out or something that talks about passing and coping strategies of dyslexics.
Yeah. I
think we need to do something with your term. It's a good way when we run training around neurodivergence and autism and dyslexia. At the moment, we talk about, dyslexics must too, because we're putting these coping strategies in so you can't see our true authentic selves. But I think the passing and then the coping strategies is a good way of explaining us and differentiating, what masking might look like. And would you say an ADHDer is passing and coping?
I think that if you're standing in a room and you're not doing a thing, then you're passing. You're not taking part. I think passing is not taking part or not taking an active part. I think if you mimic, then you're copying others, how they're dancing or they are talking, and obviously specific phrases. So I would call that masking. I would say for mimicking. And a coping strategy is going in and saying, right, well, I've learned to dance or I've learned to talk. Let's try these various strategies. I think if you mimic, then you're copying phrases, like starters, yes, or obviously talking about certain phrases, or saying, I love Taylor Swift when you don't. Yeah. So you're mimicking just how others feel and their beliefs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. This has been a fantastic conversation.
Sure.
I love talking to you. I get to learn so much. That's why you're
fun.
Such an amazing
mentor.
Mentor.
It's fun to see things from a different side.
Yes, because we get so tunnel visioned in what we're doing. In a positive way, I think. But I think that's why having our research group is really great too, because we can throw these ideas around and get feedback on the amazing work that everyone's doing in this space to grow a better understanding and awareness of dyslexia.
Yeah, it is. And next time we will talk about the School to Prison Pipe aligned books.
Yes, that would be fantastic because it's such an important topic, neurodivergence and crime and the prevalence rate. So I really do want to talk about that because we're having so many conversations with Corrections Victoria at the moment, and it's a really important topic for us to be showcasing. So I'd love to have you back on the show again, and I won't derail us with labels and concepts.
That's fine. That's fine. But say that your readers want to find out more, type in on Google, it's the bi-ability model. The bi-ability model. It's on the DSG, I think it's the DSG Disabilities Studies Group magazine. And there's a paper by the author that came up with the theory, I think about 5-ish years back. And it's really powerful reading it.
I'll have a look at that. And I would really love to get a blog out on differentiating, masking, passing and coping.
Yeah, sure.
I think that it's a really important topic for us to be talking about. So thank you so much for my evening, your day, and I look forward to talking to you soon.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Neil.
If you haven't done so already, make sure you sign up to our mailing list so you can keep up to date with everything we are doing at Rethink Dyslexia. So head to rethinkdyslexia.com.au. And don't forget, if there's anything you heard today that was distressing, you can contact Lifeline on 13 11 14 or Beyond Blue on 1300 22 46 36. Thanks for listening and bye for now.
Oh, yeah.